Ever noticed how some people survive on 6 hours of sleep and seem to have the energy of a solar flare, while you wake up after a full 9 hours feeling like you were hit by a truck? It sounds backwards, but sleeping more can actually make you feel worse. This is the exhaustion paradox. We have been told our whole lives that 8 hours is the magic number. But for many of us, that number is a trap. When you spend too much time in bed, you often drift into a shallow, low-quality state of rest that leaves your brain in a permanent fog. This is called sleep drunkenness, and it is the reason you reach for a third cup of coffee by noon. The reality is that your body doesn't actually want more time. It wants more intensity. If you are tired of waking up groggy and wasting your mornings trying to feel human, you are in the right place. We are going to flip the script on your recovery. By the way, if you find this perspective helpful, consider joining our community by subscribing. We share strategies every week to help you reclaim your time and energy. Now, to understand how to fix this, we have to look at what is actually happening inside your head while you dream. To master the art of sleeping less, you have to stop looking at your watch and start looking at your internal rhythm. Your brain does not process sleep in one long, continuous block. Instead, it moves through distinct waves known as sleep cycles. On average, one complete cycle lasts about 90 minutes. During this time, you move from light sleep into deep, restorative sleep, and finally into REM, which is where your mind processes emotions and memories. The secret to waking up with massive energy isn't about the total minutes you spent unconscious. It is about where in that 90-minute wave you decide to open your eyes. If you wake up in the middle of a deep sleep phase, you are fighting against a biological process called sleep inertia. This is that heavy, drugged feeling that can haunt you for hours. It happens because your brain was pulled out of a deep repair mode before it was ready. However, if you timed your sleep so that you wake up at the end of a 90-minute cycle, you are waking up during your lightest phase of sleep. This makes getting out of bed feel as natural as turning over in your sleep. Beyond cycles, your brain also manages a chemical called adenosine. Think of adenosine as your internal sleep pressure. From the moment you wake up, this chemical builds up in your system, making you feel more tired as the day goes on. High-efficiency sleepers don't just sleep long enough to clear it, they sleep deeply enough to flush it out entirely. When you optimize for these cycles rather than just counting hours, you can actually feel more refreshed on 6 hours of sleep than someone who slept for 8 but woke up at the wrong time. You are essentially teaching your body to prioritize the quality of the flush over the duration of the rest. Now that you understand that sleep is a series of 90-minute waves rather than a single ocean, it is time to build the infrastructure that allows you to dive deep into those waves quickly. If you want to sleep less and feel better, you cannot afford to waste 30 minutes or an hour just trying to drift off. You need a system that signals your body it is time to shut down the engines and begin the high-intensity repair process. This is where the 3-2-1 rule, the thermal minimum, and the anchor wake-up come into play. These 3 pillars act as a manual override for your biology, forcing your nervous system out of alert mode and into recovery mode. The first pillar is the 3-2-1 rule. This is a simple countdown designed to eliminate the 2 biggest enemies of deep sleep: digestion and blue light. 3 hours before you plan to close your eyes, you must stop eating. When your body is busy digesting a heavy meal, your core temperature stays elevated and your heart rate remains higher than it should be. This prevents you from entering stage 3, deep sleep, which is the most restorative part of the night. 2 hours before bed, you stop working. This creates a mental buffer zone that prevents stress looping, where your brain continues to solve problems even after your head hits the pillow. Finally, 1 hour before bed, you turn off all digital screens. The blue light from your phone mimics the sun, tricking your brain into thinking it is midday and suppressing melatonin, the hormone that makes you feel sleepy. By following this countdown, you ensure that by the time you crawl into bed, your chemistry is already primed for an instant shutdown. The second pillar involves a physical hack called the thermal minimum strategy. To fall into a deep, uninterrupted sleep, your internal body temperature needs to drop by about 2 to 3 degrees. Most people try to achieve this by simply making the room cold, but there is a faster way to cheat the system. If you take a hot shower or bath about an hour before bed, your body undergoes a process called vasodilation. The heat brings the blood to the surface of your skin, and the moment you step out of the shower, that heat evaporates rapidly, causing your internal temperature to plummet. This artificial drop in temperature acts like a biological off switch, dragging you into deep sleep much faster than if you waited for it to happen naturally. You are essentially using heat to trigger a cooling reflex that tells your brain the sun has gone down and it is time for physical repair. The third and most vital pillar is the consistent anchor wake-up. Most people make the mistake of trying to catch up on sleep during the weekend or by sleeping in after a late night. This actually destroys your energy levels because it confuses your circadian rhythm, your internal 24-hour clock. Think of your circadian rhythm like a high-speed train. It needs a predictable track to run on. When you wake up at a different time every day, the train goes off the rails. By setting an anchor wake-up time and sticking to it 7 days a week, you train your brain to know exactly when the 90-minute cycles should end. Within a few weeks, your body will begin to naturally clear adenosine and raise your internal temperature just before your alarm goes off. This means you stop being a person who is woken up by an alarm and start being a person who wakes up naturally, feeling alert and ready to go. When you combine these three pillars, you are essentially increasing the density of your sleep. You are no longer spending 8 hours in a light, restless state. Instead, you are spending 6 hours in a concentrated, high-quality recovery state. This is how high performers manage to stay sharp while others are struggling to keep their eyes open. You aren't just sleeping, you are recovering with purpose. These habits take the guesswork out of your night and replace it with a reliable, scientific process that guarantees you wake up with the energy you need to dominate your day. If you have successfully condensed your sleep into high-quality cycles, the final hurdle is the first 5 minutes after you open your eyes. This is the stackable bonus phase, a quick series of sensory triggers that tell your brain the night is officially over. When you sleep for fewer hours, you cannot afford a slow 2-hour transition into being awake. You need to trigger a physiological shift that moves you from a state of rest to a state of high alert in seconds. This isn't about willpower, it's about chemistry. Specifically, it is about managing your cortisol awakening response. The single most effective thing you can do to wake up instantly is to get direct sunlight into your eyes within minutes of waking. You don't need to stare at the sun, but you need the lux, the brightness, to hit your retinas. This serves two vital purposes. First, it tells your brain to immediately stop the production of melatonin, the hormone that makes you feel lingering grogginess. Second, it sets a timer for exactly 14 to 16 hours later when your body will begin producing melatonin again. By viewing sunlight early, you aren't just waking yourself up now, you are actually guaranteeing that you will fall asleep faster tonight. If it is dark outside when you wake up, turn on the brightest overhead lights in your house until the sun comes up. The second part of this protocol is immediate hydration with a specific twist. While you are sleeping, you are breathing out moisture for hours. You are dehydrated, and a dehydrated brain is a slow, foggy brain. However, plain water often isn't enough to jumpstart your system. Try drinking 16 ounces of water with a tiny pinch of high-quality sea salt. The electrolytes in the salt help the water actually enter your cells rather than just passing through you. This minor shift increases your blood volume and helps your heart pump oxygen to your brain more efficiently. It is like an instant electrical refire for your neurons. Finally, use a sensory shock to break any remaining sleep inertia. This doesn't necessarily mean a 10-minute ice bath, but even splashing freezing cold water on your face for 30 seconds triggers the mammalian dive reflex. This reflex lowers your heart rate slightly while simultaneously increasing blood flow to the brain and lungs. It is a biological reset button. When you stack these three things, sunlight, mineralized water, and a cold stimulus, you are essentially forcing your body to switch from standby to active mode. You will find that the heavy, lethargic feeling we associate with not enough sleep vanishes, replaced by a clean, sharp alertness that lasts until your first scheduled break of the day. The final piece of the puzzle isn't a hack or a biological trigger. It is a fundamental shift in how you view your relationship with rest. Most people treat sleep as a tax they have to pay, a frustrating interruption to their productive life. When you view sleep this way, you naturally fall into the trap of revenge bedtime procrastination, staying up late just to feel like you have control over your time. To truly master high-efficiency sleep, you must stop identifying as someone who is sleep-deprived and start identifying as someone who is recovery-optimized. This is the identity shift. High performers, elite athletes, and top-tier executives don't see sleep as a sign of weakness or a necessary evil. They see it as a high-intensity recovery phase. When you tell yourself, "I only got 6 hours of sleep, I'm going to be a mess today," you are literally coaching your brain into a state of fatigue. You are looking for reasons to be tired, and your brain will happily find them. Instead, when you focus on the quality of your cycles and the precision of your morning protocol, you realize that you have given your body exactly what it needs to perform at a high level. You become a person who prioritizes the density of their rest over the duration. This shift changes your daily behavior. When you identify as a high-efficiency sleeper, you no longer negotiate with your alarm clock. You don't hit snooze because you understand that those extra 10 minutes of shallow sleep are actually damaging your clarity by restarting a sleep cycle you can't finish. You protect your sunset signal, not because you have to, but because you know it is the fuel for your next day's success. You begin to value your waking hours more because you've reclaimed them from the sleep fog that used to consume your mornings. Ultimately, being productive with less sleep is about confidence in your biological systems. Once you have the science of the 90-minute cycle and the practical habits of the 3-2-1 rule in place, the mental anxiety about sleep disappears. You stop counting the hours of lost sleep and start counting the hours of gained life. You become sharper, faster, and more present because you are no longer dragging the weight of unnecessary sleep inertia behind you. You have moved from a lifestyle of accidental rest to a lifestyle of intentional recovery. You are now in the driver's seat of your own energy, and that is the most powerful productivity tool you will ever own.